But if you're trying to build teamwork around intrinsic motivation, you can't just let everybody do whatever they want. You can't empower endlessly. You set limits. You make sure you have the right people in the right position. You make sure that there's a proper and helpful set of relationships that facilitate this kind of environment. When you have that going, what you're hoping for is this welling up from deep sense of purpose and mission through challenging conversations that require vulnerability, that create this harmony that isn't artificial. It's a willingness to not only engage but resolve conflict so that we can get to commitment, so that we can have high standards. Mm-hmm. But when you've done that as a group, and that's hard to do, this is not easy work, but when you've done that as a group, now what you're doing is allowing the group to hold themselves accountable. You're accountable to something bigger than any one person or department, often called a goal. I experienced this in grad school. When I was doing my master's work, we were in a hybrid program. And so we're spread out all over the country, and then we'd get together for a week or two at a time and be in person together. We had this ebb and flow to that. And because of that, the professor couldn't own the room. They couldn't stand in the front and just lecture all day. And so all this work was highly collaborative. And if I didn't show up and you didn't show up, I couldn't learn. Everybody had to show up. And so the group was highly committed to their own learning. We're very self-directed. And so when we'd come into this space to learn together, the professor would have created the space for us, but we had to do the work of learning together. And so if you showed up late, it was not uncommon to go, guys, I'm really sorry I was late today. Because there was this built-in accountability because everybody was deeply committed to high standards. If you were contributing poorly, if you didn't do your homework and you didn't give, because I'd have to write something that you would have to respond to, and you can't do your work unless I do. And it created this environment where there was built-in accountability, and it shifted that word for me. It was no longer a professor holding me accountable, although they did grade our work in the end.
Right.
That's
or
fine.
or a rule that you had to follow.
Right. It was
a natural.
We held each other accountable because we're holding ourselves. It just changed the nature of that word, and it really was a ton of work, but we all wanted to be there.
Yeah. Well, and too, when you jump into teams, the team dynamic allows you to achieve more than you ever could alone, but it also requires you that you can't hide in a team.
Right.
So there's a natural dynamic of accountability just by the team itself.
That's right.
Yeah, for sure.
Michael Jordan has I don't know if this is new or not. I saw it for the first time recently. And the question, he's there on the camera, and the question is, everybody's asking who's the greatest of all time? Who's the greatest player of all time? And he's like, it's the wrong question. It's what's the greatest team of all time?
Nice. I love that.
And then he goes through, he has all his rings on his fingers, 7 of them or something. He walks through all their wins, and he goes, beat that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's a great point that this thing we're doing in business and in most of our life is actually a team sport. You cannot win without the team.
Right.
And so when that accountability structure shows up, it has to be in this new way. But here's the problem, I think. I think the hope, and I really think this is why goal setting gets hard, is we hope that we can avoid the accountability bits. And when we can't, we then don't want to set goals. Because every time you set a goal, you also set a problem or a gap or a not enough. If you say, I want to get there, what you're also saying is, I'm not there. And I'm probably not good enough yet to be there. So now I've acknowledged the work I'm going to have to do. And I think there's a way in which we hope we'll just not do that.
Right.
And then if we get there, it'll be great. The problem is the probability of getting somewhere you're not intending to go is lower than if you actually intend to go there.